Hello, and welcome to Day by Day True Crime Stories, the podcast where we explore a different crime or justice milestone from this day in history. I'm your host, Kona Gallagher, and today is August 26th. On this day in 1986, New Yorkers woke up to headlines that would dominate the tabloids, divide a courtroom, and change the way we talk about victim blaming. 18-year-old Jennifer Levin was found strangled in Central Park. Within hours, detectives were questioning the person last seen with her, 19-year-old Robert Chambers, a former prep school student with a privileged background. Very quickly, the press gave the crime a name that stuck, the Preppy Murder. Today, we're talking about the murder of Jennifer Levin. Let's get started. August 26, 1986 was the kind of summer night that made Manhattan feel electric. The humid air clung to the sidewalks as young people spilled in and out of bars. On August 25th, Jennifer Levin went to Dorian's Red Hand, a cozy Irish-American pub on 2nd Avenue. The place was an Upper East Side institution with a friendly neighborhood vibe and a reputation as the hangout for private school kids and college-bound teens. Jennifer was 18 years old, outgoing, and on the cusp of starting a new chapter in life. That night, she ran into Robert Chambers. He was tall, handsome, and moody, with the kind of preppy look that seemed to grant him charm even as his life spiraled into drugs and petty theft. Witnesses later recalled the atmosphere at Dorian's that night as being like a reunion. Friends were back from summer holidays and were catching up over beers. But as the night stretched into the morning, Jennifer and Robert gravitated toward each other. Around 4:30 a.m., the two left together and headed into Central Park. And by sunrise, Jennifer was dead. At 6:15 a.m., a cyclist discovered her body behind the Metropolitan Museum of Art. She was partially clothed with her bra pulled tight around her neck. Her skin had bruises, scratches, and bite marks. It was clear that she had fought for her life. From the start, detectives saw that this was not an accidental death. The medical examiner documented the telltale signs of strangulation: petechial hemorrhages in her eyes, deep bruising around her neck, and injuries to her nails that showed she had clawed at her attacker. One disturbing detail stood out. Jennifer's underwear was found more than 100 feet away from her body, as if she had been dragged or the assault had moved across the ground. When police brought in Robert Chambers for questioning, they noticed deep scratches on both sides of his face. At first, he brushed him off, saying that the cat did it. But under pressure, his story shifted. He said that Jennifer had forced rough sex on him, so rough that she shoved jewelry down his throat, and that he accidentally killed her while trying to stop her. But Dr. Maria Lou Zalandi, the pathologist, was clear. The pattern of Jennifer's injuries did not match Chambers' version. They showed prolonged manual strangulation, not a sudden hold and not a sex game gone wrong. Even Chambers admitted that there had been an argument, but when asked how and why it escalated to murder, he didn't have an answer. Prosecutor Linda Fairstein later admitted, quote, "As a matter of law, the prosecution doesn't have to prove motive, but as a matter of fact, jurors would have wanted to know why," end quote. The evidence was telling one story and Robert Chambers was telling another. And in between was the media, ready to shape the narrative for the world. From the moment Chambers was arrested, the press had a field day. He was young, handsome, and from a good neighborhood. The tabloids labeled it the Preppy Murder, and suddenly the case was no longer about Jennifer Levin. It was about Robert Chambers. Defense attorney Jack Littman leaned hard into that angle. He argued that Jennifer was the aggressor, that she wanted violent sex, and that her death was simply an accident. And the press ate it up. Headlines screamed how Jennifer courted death. Others claimed that her sex play got rough. Jennifer was dead, but in the papers, it was her reputation that was on trial. Detective Mike Sheehan, who led the investigation, later said, quote, "I thought this is the simplest case in the world," end quote. But as he watched the narrative spin out, he realized that the jury pool was being poisoned by privilege and victim blaming. Even decades later, the story would be retold in the 2019 documentary, The Preppy Murder, Death in Central Park. It reframed the case, this time focusing on how Jennifer had been maligned and how the public had been seduced by Chambers' preppy image. The original trial wasn't just about one crime. It became a cultural mirror, showing how society often protects the powerful and questions the vulnerable. The trial dragged on for 3 months. Jurors sat through gruesome testimony and conflicting narratives. But when it came time to deliberate, they couldn't agree. Day after day, they remained deadlocked. Then, on March 25th, 1988, rather than face a mistrial and a retrial, the prosecution cut a deal. Chambers pleaded guilty to first-degree manslaughter, admitting that he meant to hurt Jennifer but not kill her. He also pleaded guilty to an unrelated burglary. The sentence he was given was just 5 to 15 years. In court, Jennifer's family sat stunned. Her grandfather, Arnold Dominitz, spoke for them all, saying, quote, "This is not justice," end quote. The deal spared jurors from making a hard decision, but for Jennifer's loved ones, it felt like justice had been bargained away. Robert Chambers ended up serving the maximum, 15 years. On Valentine's Day 2003, he walked out of Auburn State Prison into a crowd of reporters. He still insisted that Jennifer's death was an accident, but his second chance didn't last long. In 2008, Chambers was arrested again, this time for selling cocaine. He resisted arrest, fought with police, and pleaded guilty. His new sentence was 19 years. He got more time for that than for murdering Jennifer Levin. Meanwhile, Jennifer's family tried to move forward. Her mother, Ellen, became an advocate for victims' rights. She once said of Chambers, quote, "If he continues along the course he's been on, he will be his own worst enemy," end quote. And it looks like she was right. The case also left a mark on the culture. It inspired episodes of Law and Order, countless tabloid headlines, and even music. Songs like "Jenny Was a Friend of Mine" by The Killers drew on the story's themes of betrayal and denial. But more importantly, it forced a conversation about how victims, especially women, are treated in the media and in court. Jennifer Levin wasn't just a headline. She was a daughter, she was a friend, and she was an 18-year-old girl who was about to start college. On August 26, 1986, Jennifer Levin's life was stolen in Central Park. But what followed? The trial, the tabloids, the narrative that blamed her made her case more than a crime story. It became a lesson about privilege, perception, and justice. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of Day by Day True Crime Stories. If you found Jennifer's story compelling, please subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. It'll help us grow. And be sure to join me again tomorrow as we explore another significant event in true crime history. Until then, stay safe and remember that behind every headline is a life worth remembering. Day by Day, True Crime Stories is a Little Monster production.
Hey, you can do it!